Good morning. Welcome back to Unraveled Beer Thoughts. I have another beer to try out today. This is the Benediktiner 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 Festbier. It says imported from Germany. I thought, why not? I try it, see if it's any good. I don't think I've seen this before. If I had to take a wild guess, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a Bavarian Grill down in Dallas, and maybe this was on the menu at some point uh, as one of their imported German beers. So we'll pour this and we'll see what it looks like. So we have a I guess a fairly copper colored beer. Looks pretty effervescent. As soon as I opened the can, it started bubbling a little bit. Um, that's not bad. Okay. Um, so some of those nutty, maybe some slightly estery notes. Probably most folks would say this probably smells like like an Oktoberfest, something of that nature. Maybe not quite as nutty or deep as I would expect, but it definitely has that an aroma that I associate with being a German aroma, and I don't have the exact words for it, but um, I guess you could say it smells like a German beer. Hmm, that's not bad. It kind of has a little bit of a Oktoberfesty sort of flavor to it, but better than most of the American versions that I get. Accordance with German purity law. It doesn't really say much of anything on the can. Um, so, I mean, it just says brewed in accordance with the German purity law, which essentially means that the only thing in here is malt, hops, and water and yeast. I believe. I don't think you can in Germany brew if you're brewing by the German purity law, you cannot brew with any of those any adjuncts. Um, so if you go to Belgium, you get all kinds of adjuncts in beer. You go to Germany, you can't do that. Mm. This is this is a good, crisp, clean, tiny bit of a nutty malt note to it, like just enough dark malt in there to kind of give it a roasty flavor. This is a good beer. This is one of those that I threw into make your own six pack. That's interesting. Haven't seen that. Let's taste it. And it was a 500 milliliter can, so a little bit taller than a normal beer can. I don't even think if it's imported from Germany. I don't even know if they put the ABV on the can. I don't see it anywhere here, so I have no idea how potent this. Oh, there it is, 5.8. So this is not heavy beer. This is pretty pretty light compared to most beers that I drink. Seeing as I favor stouts and some heavier some heavier beers, this one's light. I it doesn't it if I was guessing, I probably would have guessed around 6%, something like that. It feels about that weight. It feels, I guess, the weight of 6%. And maybe even I've had some more potent beers than this feels a little heavier than, but it is not a very it doesn't have a lot of ABV to it. So good beer for the winter, and probably better in the fall months and maybe in later in spring. But This is a good afternoon beer. So that is Benediktiner Festbier, purchased at Total Wine this time. Um, Hopefully, with the next 6 pack, I'll go to one of our smaller local brew pubs, get a 6 pack there to try some stuff. Every once in a while, Total Wine has some nice items to pull off their shelf. So let me know what your thoughts are on this beer if you've had this before. Given that it's a German import, I would think it's a little more obscure, possibly. Or maybe it's more common somewhere and I just haven't seen it, or there's some place in the country where lots of folks can get this beer and it just now came to Texas in recent months or something. Um, Yingling is a beer, a good example of that. We didn't have Yingling in Texas for a long time. I started seeing it in Arkansas a couple of years ago, and every once in a while I'd pick up some from there. I'm actually from the East Coast, so Yingling was a beer that I saw occasionally growing up. And in my younger years had a few Yinglings, and then but then never really saw it unless I happened to be traveling up that part of the country. So it came to Arkansas, and we didn't get into Texas until about a year ago, I think, something like that. It wasn't that long ago, and so now we can get it here. But it's pretty prevalent in a lot of areas, and that sometimes there's beers like this that they're prevalent somewhere else, but I have not seen them where I've been. And we've traveled around a decent amount. This one just doesn't strike a bell as something I've seen very often, but it very well could be somewhere. Maybe we don't go down to Fredericksburg, Texas very often, but it's a Bavarian town, so it's possible they would have this down there or would be more likely to have it down there. But that's the beer tasting for today. Thank you for joining me and have a great afternoon.